Yeah, it's a pleasure for me to have you guys here. Yeah, I would say let's start right off with a question. I didn't know if I should ask it, but what do you guys think of the term pop punk revival?
I'll go first. For me, I think it's great. You know, I mean, it's always, I think when our band first started, it was always like, you know, what do you call the music that you're doing? Is it pop? Is it punk? You're not really punk because punk is this. It's pop punk. Is it emo? And I think as far as artists and musicians go, it's not that important to us to classify what it is. However, I do remember, you know, in the early 2000s, bands like Sum41, Simple Plan, Blink-182, Green Day, New Found Glory, Good Charlotte were it was such mainstream. You know, we were on all the big radio stations, we were on the TV stations, so it was very popular at the time. And I think, you know, near around 2020, we saw that kind of come back. You know, like Machine Gun Kelly and like Black Bear doing like stuff that's kind of pop punky. So I think it's cool that that style of music, even though has evolved, is kind of coming back. And I see it. I mean, with our Blame Canada tour that we just did in America, which was amazing, and we had so many people there. I think it's cool. You know, it's always, like you said, it's a touchy word, pop punk, but to me, I think it's exciting. What do you think, Deryck?
I think you touched on most of it. Like, I agree with a lot of that. I guess yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I don't think bands themselves ever really think about the you know, the terms or the titles or the genres that they get put into. We just sort of make music, and I get it that you sort of have to kind of classify it into something, just to call it something. But I don't know. I just never really pay attention to too much of it. Yeah. I think at the beginning because pop punk wasn't really the term, like, in those early days. I don't think I really heard that until, like, I don't know, 2005-ish or something, around mid 2000s. It's because, like, I guess emo was coming into it now or something, and they had to call that era something. So now they call that pop punk, and this newer stuff in the mid 2000s is emo, I guess. I don't really know, but it just, you know, it's sometimes hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah, and I remember when it was like kind of sarcastic, because everybody wanted to say like Exploited is the true punk rock, and you guys are not true. But I mean, 20 years later, almost no one is talking about the Exploited anymore, and they are talking about a Simple Plan, like I'm just a kid became a TikTok trend. How do you react to that? Like, this song came out 20 years ago, and now it's so popular.
Yeah, it was so bizarre to watch that happen, because honestly, we didn't have anything to do with it. We didn't create that trend. It kind of happened on its own. And to be honest, I was embarrassed because it was going for like a year, and I had a friend of mine who was like, "Hey, your song's blowing up on TikTok," and I was like, "What the hell? What's TikTok?" You know? But it's really cool. But I think, you know, to me, we're just so grateful that it happened. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really explain why there's been billions of impressions of this song and how it's coming back. But what's been cool for us is that, you know, when we play shows now, I feel like we used to play that. We've always played that song, but now when we play it, it's even the reaction's even bigger than it used to be. So it's really cool.
All right, so let's talk about the two big anniversaries coming up for you this year. Does This Look Infected and No Pets, No Helmets, Just Balls are getting 20 years old? And how cool is it that your hymns still rule a good punk rock party, Deryck?
I mean, it's always great. I mean, I think when we for both bands, I assume that, like, we're not really thinking about 20 years down the road. You know, you're just making music, and you're making it kind of quickly. And you're in the studio, and you do the best work you can. You get back out on the road, and then you make another album. You don't really think about the last one. And then, 20 years later, that songs are still, you know, mean something to people is really cool. It's also surprising, but, you know, it's also, I guess, the best thing that you could hope for, really.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the fact that our music is still being listened to today, as Deryck is saying, like, I don't think you don't think about that when you're creating it. And if you can get to the point where you're still around and your music has survived this long, then that's one of the biggest achievements, I think, as an artist for me.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the upcoming tour. You just finished your Blame Canada tour. I already asked Pierre, Deryck, how exhausted are you after the tour?
Yeah, I'm definitely tired. I mean, it feels good to be home. I'm back in the studio working on like our new record, but it's, you know, music is kind of just, for me, it's just all I do. So even though you're tired, I mean, there's nothing else I'd really rather do.
So you also can't wait to get back on the road again?
Well, I could wait a couple more weeks. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, but you don't have that much time because in September you're coming to Germany, and we can't wait for your two bands to tour together in Germany. When was this idea born to tour together? Because let's face it, in the past, your groups hadn't got along that good together.
Yeah, so, we had never really had a proper tour together, but no. I think the idea came around around this time last year, and I think that when we saw the way that the response was from everybody out there with the Blame Canada tour, we're like, okay, this is awesome, and we've been friends for a long time, and we've gotten along just fine, and it's been really. Like I said, the reaction of how quickly those shows sold out, and to see, because Sum41 and Simple Plan, even though we come out around the same era, we do sound a little bit different. You know, they're a little more heavy, we're a little more poppy, but to see the crowd come in and watch both bands and have such a good time, I think we then I speak for myself here, but realized that it was a good package that people really liked. And then from there, I think it was just like, they were going to Europe. We're like, hey, we'll come and support you guys in Europe. So, and I think it's going to be awesome because so far, I know it's a different tour, but the Blame Canada tour was so good. I think that we have a lot of common fans, and people in Europe will love the two bands together.
Yeah, well, you got one here, definitely. But just to clear that up, so that rivalry between the groups in the past, are that just...
I knew it was going to go there at some point. I knew you had to go there.
So
I think it's just young. It's just young energy. And, back then, we were all kind of like, in the scene of like just trying to cause some mayhem, and I think, a long time ago, we spoke, and since then we played shows together and we hung out together and partied together, and it's that rivalry is long gone.
I think the truth of it is, for my part, is that it wasn't ever really very serious. It was more out of boredom, and you're like young and just like, let's cause some shit because we're bored. Yeah. And just see what it happens with the press, see what people say about it. We didn't ever even really talk about it like that, but I just know that's how our minds worked back then. We're just like, we're bored in interviews. Let's, I don't know, just fuck some shit up.
Let's talk some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And MTV was amazed because they got a big story. So yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So enough of the past. Let's talk about the stuff you got going on at the moment. Pierre, Simple Plan released their new record, Harder Than It Looks, in May. And I would ask you how was recording in the studio during the pandemic, but you actually finished the record before the pandemic hit in. So yeah, how tough was it to wait?
It was very difficult. I think that, our record was originally slated to come out in summer 2020. And we're Simple Plan. We're pretty slow at making records. And Chuck and I write everything together. And we're really just slow at making them. And when the pandemic hit, we were like, hey, is this a good time to put a record out? Should we wait? And then we just decided to just put brakes on it because all of us in the band have kids. And to be honest, when the pandemic hit, a lot of our, duties as parents became so much bigger. Like my wife was here alone with the kids. There's no more school. We're homeschooling. And I was so busy on a daily basis, keeping my family, and just the world was in a weird place, So we just decided, let's put the brakes on everything and put this out when we can go out and tour. So yeah, it sat, the record sat on the sidelines for like 2 years, waiting for it to come out. It was very I was very anxious to see how people would react because I love the record. And, but I think like I said, we are aware that we're very slow at making records, and we're like, let's just make sure that when it comes out, we can go out and tour. So it came out in May, and it's been a great reaction, and we love playing the new songs live, and it's been great, really well received. So we're super happy.
Yeah, and you already said in other interviews that you were trying to go back to your sound of the beginning of No Pets, No Helmets. And how was the feedback of the fans for going back to the beginning and have Deryck Whibley of Sum41 on the record?
Yeah, that was amazing. Having that feature was immediately received with so much excitement by all the fans. Like I said, I remember, and still today, when we first started, in 2001, 2, 3, 4, whenever we would play shows, there was so many Sum41 t-shirts at our shows, and I would assume that there was a lot of Simple Plan shirts. It was a very common group of fans. So I think for everyone to see us, tour together, do a song together, people are just stoked. So we're and it's one of my favorite songs on the record too, and I think Deryck really killed it. So very excited for that.
It's really awesome. But also, this song was recorded before the pandemic, or was it So
the song itself was written and recorded before the pandemic, and then the collaboration came afterwards. When we finally secured the tour, we pitched it to Deryck. The song I was singing the whole thing, and then I sent it to Deryck, and I said, "Hey, would you like to do a second verse on that? Because we're having a tour, it'd be exciting." And he was like, "Yeah, let me give it a shot." And it made this song so much better.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. So after talking about Simple Plan, let's talk about Sum41, because you already mentioned that you're working on a new record.
Yeah.
Any chance you can tell us now when it will be released?
When it will be released, I have no idea, because there's still work to be done on it. We've done so much touring this year that it kind of slowed the finishing of the album up. There's not a lot to do on the record, but I don't have enough time right now to get it done in these little breaks that we have. And we're still sorting out our record deal too. So once those two things have to kind of get sorted out, and once a record label is involved, they'll start to figure out when it's going to come out. It won't necessarily be just up to us anymore when we'd like it to come out. So I don't know. I think we'll have music out hopefully sooner than later, but I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say, but you can say that it will be a double LP, because you wrote that many songs. It will be called Heaven and Hell. That's something you already told us. And can you tell us about it? Because the two sides will sound pretty different.
Yeah, they're going to be different. One side, the Heaven side, is going to be what you would call pop punk, and the Hell side is sort of our heavier side. Instead of just kind of mixing some songs together on one album, I'd sort of by accident had written a bunch of songs that were in a certain style, and then I had some other songs I was working on that were in this heavier style. So once I kind of listened to them all, I realized that it kind of felt like they were two separate albums. They didn't really live together, in a sequence together. So once that idea came, it just all of a sudden made a lot more sense.
I love that idea, by the way. I think that's awesome.
Thanks.
All right, now one expert is on that. And for the tour, for the upcoming shows this year, what can we expect? So will you play the new stuff, or will you maybe give us an insight of the new record, or will it be a celebration of All Killer No Filler, No Pets No Helmets, of Does This Look Infected, since it's the anniversary of that? So what can we expect from the shows?
I think for us, we probably won't be playing any new songs. I think we'll stick with older songs. I don't think we're just going to play All Killer and Does This Look Infected, but we're going to play some select songs off those records that we don't really play anymore, and play all the other songs that we hope people would know.
Yeah, and for us, we're going to be, so when we first started the Blame Canada tour, we played a lot of Notepads because we wanted to celebrate 20 years. And but then after a few shows, we realized that people like that record, but we have a lot of hits from other records that people also want to hear. And then the show kind of became more like a greatest hits. And then we put one or two new songs in there. So yeah, it's going to be for us, it's going to be, all the old classic songs that people want to hear, and then maybe sprinkle with a couple of newer ones.
That's great. It sounds great. I'm still getting laughed at because I love your self-titled album, because it was the first Simple Plan record I held in my hands, because I only had the chance to watch MTV, and then there was When I'm Gone, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, well, that record, it's funny because we have a career that's kind of like spread out in the world, and like that third album was the first time that we started getting success more in Europe. Like there was a song called Your Love Is a Lie that became big in Germany, and When I'm Gone as well. But it didn't really do well in the US, which is, it's really weird. Like, so we kind of adjust our set list for where we're at. So, but yeah, we'll definitely play some of that when we're over there.
It's funny how the things change, because like MTV was my source for both of your bands. There was not much YouTube or like TikTok. It was like, waiting for some good song to come on. And then it was, of course, Into Deep of Sum41 and Simple Plan album. What did change the business for you guys? Are you watching your social media channels more, or did something change at all?
I mean, the business has changed. Lots of things have changed. I mean, for me personally, I've always just sort of focused on music and playing music and writing music. And I don't pay attention to a lot of other stuff. I probably should pay attention a little bit more, but it's just not my thing. But I don't know.
I think both of our bands have been very lucky because, social media nowadays is so important. And I think that if you are a band that's starting today, you really have no chance of breaking in unless you do social media. But we came at a time when we've amassed a lot of fans in the early 2000s, when social media, Instagram, all that didn't exist. And we have this built-in fan base that we don't have to do as much social media as someone who's coming out today, which I feel so grateful for, because to be honest, social media can be it's a lot of work. But yeah, we definitely try to put a lot of attention on it. But like Deryck said, like the important thing at the end of the day is the music. And like I said, we're very fortunate that we have so many fans already built in that we don't need to be, constantly on this social media stuff all the time. Because it is very, it's a lot, it's work. People think it looks fun, but it is work,
Yeah. Tell me about it, because it's part of my job here at Rock Antenne, and you really start to enjoy the time without social media. So,
yes, exactly.
We have to. I just hate all that
stuff. All right, so and playing a show is much more fun, I think, than doing social media. So I can't wait to see you guys in Germany. And thank you so much for taking your time for this interview. And have a good one. Get relaxed up after your big Blame Canada tour, and we'll see you in Germany.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank both of you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.